she woke, she looked upon God's unveiled face. Even as he sang and rapture stole through earth time and caught the heavens, came with a call of hooves, as if her swift heart hastening, Savitri. Her
Yeah,
radiant tread.
yeah. Let's go through that first of all because it's a little difficult to read this line, huh? Even as he sang and rapture stole through earth time and caught the heavens, came with a call of hooves, as if as of her swift heart hastening Savitri. And then there's a semicolon. So can you try to read that one again a little bit better?
Even as he sang and rapture stole through earth time and caught the heavens, came with a call of hoofs, as if a swift heart hastening, Savitri.
Very nice. Big difference now. Big difference. We got the feeling. You see, the feeling is very strong, huh? Because the call of hooves. She's still in the chariot, and the horses are bringing her to the palace. But
Yes.
but Narad is singing, and even as he's singing, and rapture stole through earth time, because when he sings, it's always rapturous. It could be about the earth, or it was in the heavens when he originally came down. But rapture is stealing through the earth time, and it has caught the heavens. But who comes with the call of hooves? Savitri. And she's coming with her swift heart that's hastening because she has so much to tell them about her beloved. So we've done matter, I think.
Yes, we did.
Yeah. And now, and we've done Savitri. I think that's brief, but you know,
Yes.
in the beginning when Sri Aurobindo speaks about. So very immediately after that semicolon, Savitri has come down from the chariot and will begin.
Her radiant tread glimmered across the floor, a happy wonder in her fathomless gaze. Changed by the halo of her love, she came, her eyes rich with a shining mist of joy, as one who comes from a heavenly embassy discharging the proud mission of her heart, one carrying the sanction of the gods to her love and its luminous eternity. She stood before her mighty Father's throne, and eager for beauty on discovered earth, transformed and new in her heart's miracle light, saw like a rose of marble, worshipping the fire tinged sweetness of the Son of Heaven.
Ah, how beautifully written, huh? So she doesn't just walk across the floor. Her radiant glimmers across the floor. And there's this happy wonder in her gaze, but that gaze is fathomless. You can't plumb that. You can't even understand the degree of that gaze because it is changed by the halo of her love. And her eyes are rich, shining with a mist of joy. And then, as one who comes from a heavenly embassy, discharging the proud mission of her heart, the mission of her heart is this finding of Satchivan, one carrying the sanction of the gods to her love and its luminous eternity. She stood before her mighty Father's throne. See, he's sitting on a throne. Huh? He's a king. He's not only a king, but he's an avatar. This is Sri Aurobindo. And eager for beauty on discovered earth, because she had known all the beauty of the earth. look, she lived in this palace with its fountains and its colonnades and its flowers and its great beauty. But now she has discovered something else. She's discovered her beloved, her answering soul, and transformed and new in her heart's miracle light. What does she see? She sees like a rose of marble worshiping Narad, the fire tinged sweetness of the Son of Heaven. And then he looks at her, and we'll continue. By the way, you read it beautifully. Very, very fine.
Thank you. He flung on her his vast, immortal look. His inner gaze surrounded her with its light, and reining back knowledge from his immortal lips, he cried to her, "Who is this that comes, the bride, the flame born, and round her illumined head pouring their lights her hymeneal pomps move flashing about her? From what green glimmer of glades, retreating into dewy silences, or half-seen verge of waters, moon betrayed, bring'st thou this glory of enchanted eyes?
Well, you see,
Earth
he's a poet, and he's not. So he has to fling on her his vast immortal look. And then his inner gaze surrounds her with its light. But he reins back knowledge from his lips because he doesn't want to let them know that this boy she has found is going to be dead in 1 year. So he's reining back this knowledge from his lips. And he cries to her in this beautiful, beautiful poetry, "Who is this that comes? The bride, the flame born, and round her illumined head." So that's her halo. Her illumined head is her halo. Everything is illumined, pouring their lights. Her hymeneal pomps move flashing about her. And then from what green glimmer of glades? Because he knows that she's been in the forest with Satyavan. And he knows about these green glimmer of glades that retreat into dewy silences or half seen verge of waters betrayed by the moon. I love that line, moon betrayed. You know, when the moon sinks into the sea and you see it flashing like that on the waters. And that, that word betrayed is very beautiful because it's not the usual sense of betrayed. It's, how can we say it? The moon, yes, it betrays the waters, but in such a beautiful way because it adds to their beauty. And that's what he's saying here. And then he says, "How did you bring this glory of enchanted eyes?" Because her eyes obviously are completely lit up in the beauty and remembrance of that time with Satyavan. Now, you see, we don't know how far she's had to travel. We have um, we have some ideas when he says that the great Ashoka saw her going forth that now sees her return. But it could be that she came very quickly and the Ashoka was blooming all that time, or it could be that it was in bloom when she left and it came back into bloom after how many months we don't know when she returned. So he tells us that well, he tells us more. Let's see what else he says.
Earth has gold-hued expanses, shadowy hills that cowl their dreaming phantom heads in night, and, guarded in a cloistral joy of woods, screened banks sink down into felicity, seized by the curved, incessant, yearning hands and ripple passion of the upgazing stream. A- Amid cool-lipped murmurs of its pure embrace, they lose their souls on beds of trembling reeds.
He's talking about these great presences, and he says that Earth has these gold-hued expanses. It has these shadowy hills that cowl. A cowl, is a covering that, like a monk wears, like a monk or a sister or a saint wears. It's a cap, like, but more than a cap. And so these hills cowl their dreaming phantom heads in night. Wow. And guarded, a cloister is a place um, where the nuns live. And when I lived in New York City, if you went north into above the Bronx, there was a place called the Cloisters. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place. It's filled with peace and silence. And there's like a walkway that's covered, shaded. And when you look from the walkway into the gardens, there's just such a beauty there. So this cloistral joy of woods means it's sort of cloistered, brought together like a cloister. And these screen banks sink down into felicity. Now he's talking about the banks of a stream, as seized by the curved, incessant, yearning hands and the rippled passion of the upgazing stream. Upgazing, notice, interesting. I don't know if Sri Aurobindo coined that. He may have coined that one. I have in my book on. No, I don't have it here. That upgazing idea, and then we go to the next page and we say, amid cool-lipped murmurs of its pure embrace, they lose their souls on beds of trembling reeds. Well, these trembling reeds are at the edge of the river. They're not in the middle of the river because that's where the water is fastest. And you have different stories. I believe you have one in India too, but in Christianity, there's the story of Moses being put into a basket just amongst the reeds and then floating down the river. Don't you have something in India about that also? Was it Krishna?
Krishna, I think when Vasudeva, yes, he's also put in a little basket and he goes down the stream.
Now, this is so interesting because when one thing is learned in the world or something new comes, the rest of the world immediately knows it. It's extraordinary. The easiest example we can give is of the rat going through a maze. And the first rat goes through, takes 5 minutes. The second one goes through, it takes 2 minutes. The third one goes through, and everyone after that doesn't even take any time at all. They go right through. Now, how did they learn that? It's sort of similar to the herd immunity. We have this herd immunity that's talked about so much these days. I just did a whole series with Dr. Pachagavkar, in which young people, he says, should gather together. They should be out in the sun. They should not wear masks. He's very, very explicit about this. He says the only thing that you have to do is take care of the aged and those who are somewhat infirm. maybe heart or kidney or diabetes or something. But he said the herd immunity develops almost spontaneously all over the world when some get it. And this
It's
is,
like the healing microbe that Mother talks of.
yes, it
When,
is.
yes.
Well, she also talked about her own transformation of the cells. And she said that anyone all over the world who is ready for this, those cells would go into their body. Mysterious presences. So let's begin there. And all these are mysterious presences. You could speak a little softer if you like, and
Okay.
very much from the heart, because this is all from the psychic being.
And all these are mysterious presences in which some spirit's immortal bliss is felt, and they betray the earth-born heart to joy. There hast thou paused, and marvelling born eyes unknown, or heard a voice that forced thy life to strain its rapture through thy listening soul?
Because he's speaking of these mysterious presences that he just spoke of previously. And he says, in those presences, some spirit's bliss, immortal bliss is felt. And then he uses the word betray again. And they betray the earth-born heart to joy. So we see that Sri Aurobindo likes to use this word betray. I don't know how many times it's in Savitri, but it's beautiful because it means they open up and they give the earth-born heart to joy. And then he says, there you paused and you marveled and your eyes were, you saw unknown eyes or you heard a voice that forced thy life. So he knows everything already, but he's couching it in such beautiful poetry because he's Narad. And so he says, you heard a voice that forced your life to strain its rapture, strain, to percolate its rapture through your listening soul. Now he's going to go on again. Wow. Or
If my thought could trust this shimmering gaze, it would say thou hast not drunk from an earthly cup, but stepping through azure curtains of the noon,
but
thou wast.
no, slow down. But stepping through azure curtains of the noon. Azure is the blue, sky blue.
But stepping through azure curtains of the noon, thou wast surrounded on a magic verge in brighter countries than man's eyes can bear.
Well, he's still in his poetic mode. And he says, if my thought, obviously he knows everything, could trust this shimmering gaze, her eyes again, and he talked about her eyes when she first came in also, it would say that you haven't drunk from an earthly cup. But as you step through these beautiful blue curtains of the noon, the curtains of the noon sometimes are, the heat of India is so intense that it's like there's a curtain at noon. And he calls them azure, of course. Azure is a beautiful. I met with Christoph one time and he kept saying azure. And that is a secondary, but not the most preferred pronunciation. But stepping through azure curtains of the noon. So there's an anapes there, three beats in one. Thou wast surrounded on a magic verge, magic edge, in brighter countries than man's eyes can bear. And he goes on. Amazing.
Assailed by trooping voices of delight, and seized mid a sunlit glamour of the boughs in fairy woods, led down the gleaming slopes of Gandhaha Madan, where the Apsaras roam. Thy limbs have shared the sports which none has seen, and in God haunts thy human footsteps strayed, thy mortal bosom quivered with God's speech, and thy soul answered to a word unknown.
Well, we have many things to go through here. So, okay, so he says, assailed. See, here's the word assailed again, which is a fantastic word. Assailed. When you assail someone, it's usually very negative, but here it's positive. And these trooping voices, trooping. We speak of trooping deer. We see, moving along. So you're hit by these voices that are of delight that are moving along, and you're seized mid a sunlit glamour of the boughs. Oh, because when the sun hits the leaves, it's such an experience. It always has been for me one of the most beautiful experiences because then it filters down onto the earth and you have these rays of light that come down onto the earth. Sometimes I used to, when I worked for my father, he would say, go and pick hemlock plants out of the darkest woods. And I'd go into these dark woods where the sunlight was filtering down. And on old stumps that had turned to peat moss, I could pluck out these little plants of hemlocks, and then he would grow them in our nursery. And so I'm very familiar with that sunlit glamour of the boughs. And it was like being in fairy woods. And led down the gleaming slopes of Gandhamadan. Now, Gandhamadan in Hindu mythology is a mountain and a forest near Mount Meru, and it's sort of the division between Ilavrata and Bhadrasva, again east of Meru. And the forest of Gandhamadan is renowned for its fragrance. So we see the fragrance comes in here too. Now, next time we meet, we'll go through Sri Aurobindo's writing on the Apsaras because it's quite long and very, very beautiful. And now, yes, you had a question? Yeah.
Yes, will we also read word and apsaras next time, or do we do it today? The definition of word and apsaras.
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
Okay.
And let's go through these last lines where he says, thy limbs have shared the sports which none has seen. This is obviously the embraces of Satyavan, the sports. And in God haunts, thy human footsteps strayed. He knew that this area was a haunt where Satyavan lived. And then he says, thy mortal bosom quivered with God's speech, and thy soul answered to a word unknown. Would you like to read the whole thing from the beginning? And we have that whole feeling of that arrival of Savitri and Narad's greeting her.
Even as he sang and rapture stole through earth dying and caught the heavens, came with a call of hooves, as if her swift heart hastening, Savitri. Her radiant tread glimmered across the floor, a happy wonder in her fathomless gaze, changed by the halo of her love she came. Her eyes rich with a shining mist of joy, as one who comes from a heavenly embassy, discharging the proud mission of her heart, one carrying the sanction of the gods to her love and its luminous eternity. She stood before her mighty father's throne, and eager for beauty on discovered earth, transformed and new in her heart's miracle light. She saw a rose of she saw like a rose of marble, worshipping the fire-tinged sweetness of the Son of Heaven. He flung on her his vast immortal look, his inner gaze surrounded her with its light, and reining back knowledge from his immortal lips, he cried to her, "Who is this that comes?" The bride, the flame born, and round her illumined head, pouring their lights, her hymeneal pomps move flashing about her. From what green glimmer of glades retreating into dewy silences, or half-seen verge of waters, moon betrayed, bring'st thou this glory of enchanted eyes? Earth has gold-hued expanses, shadowy hills that cowl their dreaming phantom heads in night, and, guarded in a cloistral joy of woods, screened banks sink down into felicity, seized by the curved, incessant, yearning hands and ripple passion of the upgazing stream. Amid cool-lipped murmurs of its pure embrace, they lose their souls on beds of trembling reeds, and all these are mysterious presences in which some spirit's immortal bliss is felt, and they betray the earth-born heart to joy. There hast thou paused, and marvelling borne eyes unknown, or heard a voice that forced thy life to strain its rapture through thy listening soul. Or if my thought could trust this shimmering gaze, it would say thou hast not drunk from an earthly cup, but stepping through azure curtains of the noon, thou
Azure.
but but stepping through azure curtains of the noon, thou wast surrounded on a magic verge in brighter countries than man's eyes can bear. Assailed by trooping voices of delight, and seized mid a sunlit glamour of the boughs in fairy woods, led down the gleaming slopes of Gandhamadan, where the Apsaras roam, thy limbs have shared the sports which none has seen, and in God haunts thy human footsteps strayed, thy mortal bosom quivered with God's speech, and thy soul answered to a word unknown.
Good. Very good. The word azure, you have to accent on the first syllable. Azure.
Azure,
Azure.
azure.
Very good. Well, it was a long passage today, but I
Yeah.
didn't want to break it up at all. And you did very well.
Thank you.
Okay. Namaste.
I'll see you next week. Namaste.
Very good.